The Mandalorian and the child are on the run, and now their ship is damaged. So, where do you go to get repairs and find a place to hide out? Of course, you go where you will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to an all-new Crossin Streams. As always, I am your host, the real Geno Reynolds, and today we're going to be talking about the Mandalorian Chapter 5, the Gunslinger. When we start off this episode, the Mandalorian and the child are in space on the run from another bounty hunter. Their ship gets damaged, but they're able to stop the bounty hunter, but they need to find a place to repair their ship. So, this is where the nostalgia trip kicks in. The closest planet to them is Tatooine. So yeah, you're going to get a lot of original Star Wars references in this episode. So of course, if you're going to land a ship in Tatooine, you're going to end up at the Mos Eisley spaceport. And so he takes a ship there and hires a repair person played by Amy Sedaris. Which, by the way, I gotta say this. I love that this show is using a lot of comedians in different roles. I know a bunch of other comedians have different roles coming up, and I really think that's cool. But anyway, he hires her to repair the ship while he goes to look for work to pay for everything because he only has, I think it's like 500 Imperial credits, and that takes care of the docking, but he's got to pay for the repairs. So he goes looking for work, and he ends up at another familiar place, the Mos Eisley Cantina. But man, have things changed ever since Jabba the Hutt died on this planet. It's of course, this show is 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So Jabba's dead. The Bounty Hunters Guild have no representation on Tatooine now. So it's going to be hard for the Mandalorian to look for work, for one, but also a lot of things have changed about the cantina, considering the fact that droids are not only allowed inside now, but they're running the joint. So when he goes in there, he's not having much luck, but then we're introduced to Toro, who he turns out to be a first-time bounty hunter. He acts all cocky at first, and he's got his feet up on the table. His blaster kind of looks familiar. He looks like a scruffy nerfer. You get where I'm going with this. They're kind of trying to make you feel like he's going to be a Han Solo type, even though he ends up being kind of just a scared newbie there at the beginning. And so he has this job to find this former assassin, and he wants the Mandalorian to help him, and he's going to give the Mandalorian all the money. He just needs this job to get into the guild. The Mandalorian, he agrees, and they set out on their mission. And this is where we hit yet another nostalgia trip. We run into the Tusken Raiders. Thankfully, they don't attack our hero. He knows how to negotiate with them and gets away by giving away one of Toro's prized items. So then they find their target, which this is an assassin named Fennec, played by Ming-Na Wen. And they have to find a way to get to her because she has a high-powered sniper rifle, and they have to find a way to get close to her without getting their heads blown off. And that's about where I'm going to stop right there explaining the episode. There might be a few more spoilers, because I do want to talk about the end of the episode. For me, it was another solid episode. A lot of people are complaining there was too much nostalgia. I like that they showed kind of how Tatooine and especially the Mos Eisley spaceport has changed since Jabba the Hutt died. They kind of show you that things are different now. That it's not as, it's not the place for scum and villainy anymore, at least for the most part. So it was another solid episode, another simple story. It doesn't big time advance the overall story, but it does, especially the ending, Will. I like the new characters, even though one of my biggest gripes about this show is I know this is supposed to be our hero and the child going through different places and different adventures, but I would like to see some more established characters, especially some villains, and we'll get to that in a minute. I mean, is it a big gripe? No, but it is a gripe. I want to see some more established characters, and I know some characters are probably going to come back later, but especially when the overall story starts kicking back in. But I just want to see some more characters we can get attached to. But then again, the story they told here was simple. It's about it involves a little bit about motivation, what you would do to get what you want. Also, we get to see Amy Sedaris' character. She kind of misjudges the Mandalorian, thinks he's just another bounty hunter type, but he actually shows her some gratitude, which she doesn't expect. And also, he kind of trusts her a little bit because she finds the child. He leaves the child in the ship asleep, but the child comes out. And at first, he's really apprehensive about letting her take care of the child, but then he warms up to the idea, and of course, she's very trustworthy. So yeah, all in all, a solid episode, but I want to talk about the ending. I don't really have any information other than what happened. At the end of the episode, we see it's pitch black. It's nighttime on Tatooine, and we see a figure walking to investigate where the action happened in this episode, and we don't know who it is, but you can kind of hear a little bit of jangling, and I have a theory because, a lot of people are thinking it might be Boba Fett. And it very well could. He could have gotten out of the Sarlacc pit, and this would be a great way to bring him back in, right? Who knows? Because he could be a very cool, first of all, I'm sorry, to the Boba Fett fans out there, I like the way Boba Fett looks too, and he looks really cool, but man, Boba Fett was a bit of a chump in the movies. I know they did more with him in, like, the cartoons, and then, of course, now we have the Mandalorian, who makes Boba Fett really look bad. This would be a way to rectify that character, I think, but I don't think it's Boba Fett. I really don't. Do I think Boba Fett's going to eventually show up in the show? Yes, and this very well could be him. But I have a theory, because the fate of a certain character that I like was never really determined. Now, I know they were supposed to determine the fate of this character. I believe it was in Rebels, but they never showed it. They never did it, or maybe it was in Clone Wars. It was one of the two. It was a character from the Clone Wars. And I made a joke about this. I used to do a segment on my channel where I would throw up 3 stories, 2 of them be real and 1 of them be fake. And you're supposed to spot the fake one, right? And I made one about this show way before it came out, and I said that Cad Bane was going to show up in the show to be a rival for the Mandalorian. And man, if this ends up being Cad Bane, I am going to be psyched, because I mean, I've always loved that character. He fits the Western motif of this show, and would make a perfect, like, just arch rival for our main character. Then again, his fate's not really sealed, but I love the fact that David Filoni is behind this show, and David Filoni was involved in the Clone Wars, so he's had many. He's used Cad Bane a lot. I would love to see Cad Bane show up in this show, and if my little fake story comes true, that's going to be awesome for me. But again, we don't know who this character is, because all we see is, like, legs, and that's it, and it's pitch black. You can't really see anything. He's kind of wearing a cape, or at least something like a cape. So, I would love to see it be Cad Bane, but I think this is going to be whoever becomes the Mandalorian's kind of rival, his big bad. So I'm really curious to see who it is. I don't know if we're going to see it next episode, or if they're going to wait and reveal it maybe even at the end of the season. But all in all, I still enjoyed this episode a lot. Again, I want the show to be a lot more unpredictable. Now, if Cad Bane shows up, I'll be very happy, and that'll be enough unpredictability for me. But who knows who this is that's coming into the show to track down the Mandalorian and the child. But all in all, I still really enjoyed the episode. I did enjoy the nostalgia. A lot of people thought it was too much. I thought it was just enough. So anyway, that's going to be all for this edition of Crossin Streams. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the Real Geno YouTube channel. Like this video. And if you have anything to say about the Mandalorian Chapter 5, please feel free to leave a comment in the section below. Till next time, I'm your host, the Real Geno, Geno Reynolds, and this is The Way.